And do it up to,
Where did you
Great.
find it? Oh, there it is. Okay.
and you have to say to the cloud.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for coming to Creative Connections. We have some amazing members in our village, and Paula Rao is one of them. And I am delighted to introduce her so that she can talk to you about her connections with the music circle at Occidental and Indian music in general, and her experience with it. So you're on, Paula.
Oh, thank you.
I'm
Well,
gonna mute.
I wore my special music circle t-shirt
Oh, nice.
today. I didn't know what to wear, and I thought, well, of course, wear your music circle t-shirt.
I'm gonna mute everybody, Paula. Sorry about that. Okay, everyone, you're gonna mute and then Paula's gonna unmute. Just one minute.
Okay. There. Okay, well, I wonder if you all expected to hear some music today, being the music circle, but so far Zoom can do a lot of different good things, but one thing that it doesn't do well is have music, and especially a music with so many little elaborations as Indian music. So I got together a bunch of photographs and put them on slides, and I have some stories, and that's what I'm going to use to tell you about the music circle. The music circle was created in 1973 by my husband, Harihar Rao, and his teacher, the great maestro, Ravi Shankar. Some of you may have heard of him before. And I'm going to tell you just a little about Indian music because I'm not myself a musician. And I know what I love to hear though. And right from the beginning, I really loved Indian classical music. Classical music, just like the Western classical music, is not necessarily embraced by the masses of people. It's sort of for those who have a special love for that kind of music. So what I'm going to do is tell you just a little bit about Indian music that I know, and I can answer questions. And as far as I'm concerned, if anybody wants to unmute and shout out a question anytime, that would be fine with me. So I'm going to share my screen now, because that makes it more interesting than just looking at me. And I'm going to share a portion of my screen, which I just learned how to do. So do you see now a slide that says the music circle?
Yes.
And do you see everything else is blanked out, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to check something here that I wanted and tell you that I've been involved with the music circle since that 1973 founding, and we present about 6 to 8 concerts a year since then, plus a festival of some sort, which is a big deal. So preparations were always going on in my house. Before I say more about that, I'll say a little bit about Indian music. It's quite different from the classical music of Western countries. As far as I know, Western classical music has notation, unless it's jazz, and even then it does. And musicians read and play what is written there. There is some interpretation, but each piece is essentially the same each time it's played. Indian music, on the other hand, is not written down. So students must study hours each day with their teacher, committing countless passages to memory, and later learning how to improvise. Most of you may have heard of ragas related to Indian music. Ragas are a kind of scale, but a lot more. In Western music, we have a few scales, and Indian music has many. Some people say they have like 72 parent scales, and each of those scales give birth to a number of ragas. The rules of a raga involve how many notes you're allowed to play as you ascend the scale, and how many you can play descending. Certain notes may be skipped, and certain notes may have ornaments or slides or various things they must do on a certain note if they are ascending or descending in that particular raga. They also have a time of day when they should be played because they have a certain emotional aura to them. From listening to their teacher hundreds of times, a student begins to absorb not only these details, but also the essential feeling of a raga.
Hey, Paula,
And-
are we
yeah.
supposed, Miss Betty Ann, are we supposed to be able to see words at the bottom of the screen?
No.
I can see some words, but I can't read them. Okay. all
Okay,
right,
well, I don't, then let me move this up a little bit.
Okay.
Because I put, oh, I see what I need to do. I need to move it like that. And like, oopsie, come on, do your thing. That's right. And that. Now, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I put some notes here about the ragas and the talas. That's the melody and the rhythm, just to make sure that I covered a few things that I might forget. So anyway, I was talking about ragas and the rules of playing them. And after listening to their teacher hundreds of times, playing in concerts and during the lessons and the teaching of other students, the student becomes ready to do improvisation, which all Indian music concerts have. South Indian music has less improvisation, but North Indian classical music, which we usually present, is almost totally improvised. Tala is the rhythmic system and it's one of the most complex rhythmic systems in world music. I happen to have met my husband while studying tabla, which are two separate drums played with the right hand and a left hand together. And I learned just enough from him to be amazed and astonished. 7 against 5, 3 against 4, 12 or 16 beats to the measure. It's really crazy for somebody who doesn't know too much about rhythm, and even for those Western musicians who do. Anyway, I was hoping to have our artistic director explain some of this to you, but he's in Houston visiting his new grandchild. So we'll have to save that for another day. About our founders, Ravi Shankar in the late 1950s, who's our co-founder, was rapidly rising to star quality in India at the time. And eventually he was invited to play internationally. In 1969, he was invited to play at Woodstock to an adoring crowd. But I read recently that he soon distanced himself from rock concerts and the so-called hippies, as they weren't really devoted to music in a respectful way. They were all taking drugs and, laying with their lovers and so on. But I like this picture, which I found online because it has an old tube amplifier there on the left. And here I put on top the first album of Ravi Shankar's music that he played at Woodstock. I wish we could get together sometime and listen to some of this music. Wouldn't it be fun? So anyway, and then this is 2 years before that, in 1967, he also played at the Monterey International Pop Festival. And this is his recording on vinyl, of course, of that time. So from these and many other concerts that he gave, at that time, Indian music became very popular with all kinds of people, more so than it is now. It was because of course, he is no more, and people sort of hang on to the old and the first that they ever heard, and it's hard to break in with new but wonderful artists. This is another album cover from Ravi Shankar's Pop Festival music. I put it here so that you could see his sitar up close. And here, can you see my arrow thing here that is showing all the pegs on the sitar? The 5 at the top are the 5 major strings, and then all these little pegs down the side tune sympathetic strings underneath, which vibrate in harmony with the top strings when playing a melody. And Ravi Shankar was extremely good with rhythm as well, and it was hard to find drum players who could actually hold their own with him. Here's an old historical photo of my husband and Ravi Shankar before he started out internationally. And again, you see the sitar here. And I just put this in because I really love it. So along the same time, I think this picture, by the way, I think was around the 1940s. So that was a pretty long time ago. And my husband was became not only his student, but he was also the arranger of his concerts in those early days in India. This slide shows Yehudi Menuhin with Ravi Shankar. I think they were preparing for a concert together, and later an album called West Meets East. And that was released about 1967. And of course, you probably all heard of George Harrison, who was studying sitar for a while from Ravi Shankar. And when he used that, I think, obviously he never became great on the sitar, but I think he used some of its lush sounds on some of his albums. And these people are all lining up here. They're a group that were from India rehearsing at George Harrison's estate in preparation for the concert for Bangladesh, I believe it was, that was in Madison Square Garden around 1970 or so. And I was lucky that summer to being off from teaching. I stayed there in Henley-on-Thames outside of London, where George Harrison's estate was. And so I was able to go up and listen to a lot of their rehearsals, which was fabulous. This is another vinyl album put out. This one is called Ravi Shankar's Music Festival from India. And again, you see George Harrison sort of stayed pretty close with Ravi Shankar during those days. So you see him there on the album cover. And the guy here with his arms crossed is Harihar, my husband. So then around 1973, Ravi Shankar and my husband were walking through Occidental College because they wanted to enroll Ravi's son, Shubho, at the college in their art department. And so the hosts took them around and showed them all the buildings. And at one point, they were able to peep inside of the Herrick Chapel. And the minute Ravi Shankar saw that, he said, "Oh my God, this is the place. We've got to be able to do concerts here." And the first concert there, he played, and people were hanging from the rafters and the balcony and everything. Luckily, being in 1973, there weren't the same rules about fire and everything else. So we had incense on the stage, and we had way too many people in that chapel. This is the interior of the chapel, and you can see the beautiful glass inlays, and they're all around, and sort of like rainbows of light in the daytime are all around. And you can see, if you have a big enough screen, you might see 3 musicians here, all with violins. Some people are surprised to know that violin is used in Indian classical music, particularly the South Indian classical music. In India, they have music circles, they call them, and those are aficionados who like to gather together in people's homes and listen to Indian music and give a chance to artists to have an audience. And so that's why we called our group the Music Circle. And actually, it was kind of circular there up near the stage. You can see the people sitting on pillows up close to the artist, and you can see people back on the seats behind. And up here is the balcony, which also holds quite a few people. The entire chapel holds almost 500 people. But normally we don't have that many people come to our concerts. This is a niche interest for most people these days. The instruments I wanted to show you, one was the sarod, which you don't hear as much about as the sitar. And as you can see, the fingers can glide on a fingerboard and allow the kind of sliding sound that some Indian music, you can hear in some Indian music. There's a skin covering the bass here, and it has quite a good, strong sound, quite beautiful. This is called the sarangi, and it's played with a bow and sounds probably most like the human voice of any of the Indian instruments. I have a close-up here to show you that she is stopping the string with her fingernails up near the cuticle. And there's actually on the hand of a sarangi player, you can see grooves in their nail right near the cuticle from having slid it over the strings so often. This is a bamboo flute, which is played in both North and South India. And it comes in different sizes. And this is a very fine flute player who has played in the Music Circle. If you have any questions about these instruments or anything, and you don't feel like shouting it out, make a note of it or put it in the notes so we can talk about them afterwards. This artist is playing a guitar placed on his lap, and he has a sliding thing, sort of like you see in Hawaii. And so he slides over the notes so he can get those glissandos and everything that you hear in Indian music. He's got a pick on his thumb there. And over here is the left part of the pair of tabla drums. And he will be accompanying when the fast part of the raga is played. Vocal music is probably considered to be the finest of all, the finest instrument of all. And so vocalists actually make the most money in India too, because they're sought after. And they have finely tuned their voice in a very different way than you hear here in the United States. But these are two that are playing off of each other in a wonderful way. And here is the violin again, and you can see that it's held sort of face downwards or in a different angle than you usually see. And of course, they're cross-legged. The little marks up here on the forehead are kind of devotional marks that they put on in the morning after they say their morning prayers. And these are South Indians who tend to do that more. here's some more South Indian musical instruments. This one is a veena, and these frets that you see are set in wax, a hard wax, and they have to be repaired from time to time. And I'm not sure why that is, why they're set that way. I don't know if they can change the frets. In the sitar, they change the frets for different ragas. They can slide them a little up or down to get a different scale, I guess you could say. And the drum down here at the left is a mridangam, which is again a South Indian drum, and the guy playing it is our current artistic director, Vinod Venkataraman. And this is his daughter, who plays violin beautifully. She's now a doctor in Houston and just had a baby, so Vinod goes often to see her. This rhythmic instrument at the right corner is a clay pot. And when you play on it the right way, you get all kinds of tones, and it's a beautiful, along with the other drums during a concert. Okay, back to George Harrison. You saw a guy playing guitar a few minutes ago, and this guy over to the right is that guitar player. His name is Vishwa Mohan. And Vishwa Mohan in 1994 won a Grammy for the best world music album called A Meeting by the River. And it was along with Ry Cooder, the guitar player. And so it's a beautiful album. And he was touring when the Grammy was awarded. So my husband over here called up, I don't know who, and asked if the Grammy Award could be sent to us because we were having a concert with Vishnu Mohan and we wanted to present it to him in front of the audience. So that Grammy arrived and got polished all up and was awarded to him. And he's laughing here after getting it because George Harrison is saying, finally, a Grammy goes to a proper musician. And I thought that was amazing. I actually have on tape this concert. It's an old videotape, so it's pretty muddled, but you can actually hear him saying that on the tape. So here we are in the 2000s, and the one over to the right is a concert we gave at Royce Hall, which was a tribute to Alaraka, who was a legendary tabla player in India and Ravi Shankar's tabla player for many, many years. And unfortunately, he passed away. And so we had a number of wonderful artists play, and we used it as a fundraiser also. So we, unfortunately, after that, though, well, we had an unfortunate surprise, and we weren't able to keep most of those funds. So over here in 2001, this says Expressions of Devotion, which was meant to show the music, devotional music of Buddhist cultures of Sri Lanka and Thailand, Japan, which shared the roots of Buddhist culture that spread across the continent from India. So you could see how it changed as it spread across the continent over to Japan. And these people down here are the Japanese monks who came to sing. And I don't have any more pictures from that, but it was in Thorne Hall at Occidental College, which is their big hall, which holds about nearly 1,000 people. And this is in 1995 when Ravi Shankar had his 75th birthday. And we needed to have a very big hall, so we used, what's it called? A big hall at Pasadena City College, Sexton Auditorium. It holds about 2,000 people. And we needed it to be big for that. So we had a festival, and what you see on the left is just the invitation that we sent out to people. And on the right, way up near the door, there's a big platter with birthday cake. And here you see Ravi Shankar's daughter giving him a piece of birthday cake to eat. And over here, my husband is showing a special proclamation from Los Angeles City Hall, all beautifully decked out in gold and wonderful script and everything, signed by a whole bunch of people. I don't know who they were. We did a number of concerts also with various museums, LACMA, Getty, Norton Simon, sometimes in connection with an important gallery show or so. Anyway, we've done a lot of cooperative, I guess you'd say, concerts with various other organizations. This one in around 2003 was in Pacific Asia Museum. The music was upstairs in their auditorium, and outside in the patio were a number of activities for families to do together. This was to celebrate something called Vijaya Dashami, which is celebrates the victory of the monkey gods over what's his name? Anyway, a really bad guy, king of Sri Lanka, who had abducted one of the goddesses. So some of our activities outside, we were, one person was at a table doing garland making with people, because garlands are used often to show respect or at a time of celebration. And this was another activity called Make a Mask. Oh, Ravana. Ravana is the 10-headed demon. And here you can see him with his 10 heads all made out of paper plates and a crown on his head. And this was a popular activity with kids. Here's a girl making her crown, which is a lot nicer than mine was. And she put together a whole bunch of these plates and made her Ravana puppet. And this is a child who made one also. And I noticed she's a happy looking girl, and I guess she couldn't make angry faces because all of these faces seem to be smiling. Another project was called the Ramayana, which is an Indian epic tale. And it was done by a gamelan group. I don't know if any of you have heard of gamelan music, but it is incredible. It's played with hammers on metal bars, and it's loud and amazing because there are a whole bunch of people with these gamelans, and they're all playing a different thing, but they all have to weave in and out of each other perfectly. This was a 3-day festival at the Red Cat Theater down there next to Disney Hall. And it was sold out each day. And you can see how beautiful the costuming is. This is one of the monkey gods here. And this was probably Sita, the one that was abducted, the woman there. And here's the bad guy. And behind him, you can see the gamelans. See, there are 2 of them showing here, but there are like a whole row of them and then a row behind them. And they're all playing intensely. You may remember when George Harrison passed away, and at that time, the Music Circle did a memorial concert for him down in the Aratani Japan America Theater in Los Angeles. And here are some of our volunteers getting ready, setting up the stage and things for that. And this is the hangings from India that are hanging from the ceiling there, and you can see the stage hasn't been dressed yet. We have these tables that we can fold up, and they're all in my garage. And a truck comes whenever we're having a concert and picks up all the sound equipment and the stage stuff and everything and takes it away for only a while. I can't get my car in there, unfortunately. These are plastic cups from Vaughn's, and in each one is a marigold. And she's preparing those at the behest of an amazing architect. This architect is well known in Los Angeles, and he had the idea of putting all these cups with a little bit of water and a flower all the way across in front of the stage, as you can see here, for the George Harrison Memorial. After the memorial, a number of us stood outside with peacock feathers and handed them out to all of the audience people as they came out, and they had a little remembrance card on them, and I hear that some people still have them. Giving out peacock feathers is a really fun thing to do, and people seem to be so happy to get them. Well, around 2012 or so, when my husband was failing a little and we didn't really know why, one of our board members and a very accomplished artist stepped up to be artistic director. And you see here Vinod Venkataraman in around 2012 or so. And I keep this picture because it looks like, okay, this is the moment when the legacy passes on. So my husband died in January of 2013, just about 1 month exactly after his guru, Ravi Shankar. So Vinod planned an amazing memorial, and Occidental College offered Thorn Hall to us for free and the staff to go with it for parking and everything that we needed. It was a beautiful production with musicians and many folks who flew in to offer their stories and remembrances from the past. You can see a photo here of Ravi Shankar, and over on the other side is Harihar, my husband. I want to point out to you two beautiful, well, actually 4 beautiful stage props here that are painted kind of in the style of the Indian miniatures. Do they look familiar to you, that kind of trees that they made and everything in those, the old Indian miniatures? Anyway, they're big. These are not miniatures. They're very big, and they've decorated our stage on a number of occasions. I'm going to refer to these again in just a minute. So volunteers were a really important part always of our organization and continue to be. And this is a picture of Don Kirby, who was our sound guy and constantly working with my husband to pull off our productions. He was over at our house almost every day getting instructions for something to make or record or do. And then he did a beautiful job of the sound at our concerts. And he's surrounded here by all kinds of artists for whom he did the sound. And this is actually a certificate I made for him when he retired, just around 2014 or so. So was time to move on, and Vinod took over the helm, and we continued concerts at the chapel and two amazing events at the Ford Theater in 2016, another one in the summer of 2017, until COVID struck. And after that, Vinod has planned and is planning a number of streaming concerts and even some cooking videos so audience members could make Indian recipes to enjoy during the concerts. And once in a while, I still get an email saying, why don't you make some more of those cooking videos? Forget the music, we want to cook. So Vinod's also a very good cook, and he owns a little cafe in Long Beach, along with the many other things he does. This is how it looked in the Ford Theater in one of the concerts. You can see it's a beautiful place. The stage is backed by all these stones, and then way up on the hill, there are lots of trees and so on that are lit up in the evening, and everything looks gorgeous there under the stars. So we made 5 stages, and we have mostly here South Indian instrumentalists, except for the tabla player over here on the right. I wanted to just kind of give a shout out to Jan Stewart. Jan Stewart was a student of Corita Kent and co-authored a book with her called Learning by Heart, which talked about Corita's wonderful ways of teaching art to her students. She was a prolific artist, photographer, and graphic designer, and she was very prominent in the music circle, doing most of our art for many years, all through the 80s and 90s particularly. She painted the stage props you saw just a minute ago, and she had did lighting for festivals and just about everything. She even got a lot of the artists that we used in that Expressions of Devotion concert. So here we are at the end. And why these 2 guys? Well, the summer before COVID, LA County Arts Commission offered internships to students in their last years of college or recent graduates to work in the nonprofit arts world. And so we applied and got not 1, but 2 interns, and they worked full days all summer long here at my house, helping to update our archives and our website. And they're brilliant and skilled and happy guys. And I feel fortunate to have worked with them that summer. The one on the left, Kevin, still volunteers to help with videos and streaming. And so that brings us around to where we are now. And I'm going to stop my share and open it up to questions, if you have any.
I have one.
Okay.
And it's because you haven't said really too much about what your husband actually did besides the managing. And I saw him in a picture with a sitar in his hand, and that you hadn't mentioned at all whether he.
There are so many things I forgot, and I see that I've talked for way too long, but there's just so much to remember. And of course, my memory is, as someone said, kind of slippery these days. So yes, he was a sitar student of Ravi Shankar, and he played the sitar in concerts around the city here, and he was teaching at most of the universities at one time or another. He came to this country on a Fulbright grant to teach Indian music at UCLA in their world music department. And so it was there that I met him when I went there with a friend who, actually the friend was Jan Stewart, the one I just talked about, the great artist. And she asked me to go with her. So we went and talked him into teaching at her house in Hollywood. And so she had a sitar, so I decided to take tabla. And the next year we were married, and I stopped doing tabla because I was teaching and kind of 24 hours. So
Paula, I want to add something to that because Hari also performed around the world with Ravi Shankar. And before I ever met Paula, I had a record and now a disc of the concert that they did in Russia.
oh, yes. Hey, thank you for adding that on.
I heard
I-
Ravi Shankar in either 1958 or 59 in my college in Massachusetts.
Aha.
That Hari was on that tour that they were making.
He might have been.
Well, I was really struck by Ravi Shankar. It was
Yes,
something.
yes. He strikes you right in the right in the heart, I would say.
You know, Paula, I've told you this, but I want to tell other people that in 1955, I lived in India. And I don't know why I remember this, except that I think Ravi Shankar was such a presence. I heard him play a concert in 1955. I think it was maybe at the American Embassy.
Uh-huh.
And it was so exciting to me that I decided to study the sitar in my Indian school, which I did. And then I don't know why, but the cook in our house gave me his sitar and I brought it back to America. So
You still have it?
no, it was made out of a gourd and it finally disintegrated.
They're all made out of gourds.
Okay.
You have to
Yeah,
treat
yeah.
them gently.
It wasn't taken care of, I'd say.
Wow.
And one-
Well, I'm very much impressed with all that you've been exposed to through Indian music. And I would love for the village to have an outing to the music circle when they're performing again. I think that would be absolutely magical.
We would love to do that. The Occidental College right now is not having anyone on campus except the students.
Right.
And we've been begging to use the chapel again, but they're not ready and maybe may not be ready for a while. But it was on my mind that it would be really nice to have an outing there because it's not too far to go and it's just a lovely,
Not very far at all.
no.
Karin, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and so, you know, we're ready. Whenever they're ready, we're ready.
Okay,
The cultural committee would love to make that happen.
okay. And we can have a day of record playing at somebody's house if we want to.
Yes.
Yeah, we could even wear Indian clothes and indies.
I had worn a sari a lot in my early days, but I don't like to get dressed in it anymore. You have to be so careful of everything not to come apart.
Exactly. I don't want to become unwrapped.
And I tend to move around quickly, I guess, and it gets to be I don't know. I'm not a dresser upper. That's why I like my t-shirt, my music circle t-shirt. If you're like me, you can get one.
that
So
was-
Paula, you were Shankar groupie? Is that how you ended up getting involved?
Actually, it was because I was studying tabla from my husband, who was always doing things with Ravi Shankar. So,
That's just a fancy way of saying, yes, you were a groupie.
okay. When you're young, you can be a groupie.
that-
When you
that-
get older, you realize that nobody's that special.
Yeah, all right.
We're all special. We're just all special.
Paula, thank you for explaining so much about Indian music. I found it absolutely fascinating.
It was just as interesting as if there'd been music. The picture
Right.
was wonderful.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the music would have been nice, but I just didn't even realize that the time was going by. This was such a wonderful presentation.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. Pat, I put that little picture of Van Stewart in for you so we can talk about it later. Who wrote the book with Corita.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have that book, Learning by Heart?
No, it's a different book about Corita. But
Well,
it's a
Learning
good
by
book.
Heart is all projects and things.
Oh, okay, that would be fun, yeah.
Oh, it's a wonderful book.
Oh,
Yeah.
one
A few of us got together and did a few of them in my
Yes.
kitchen one time. I think Barbara and Sally were there.
Yes.
Somebody
Yeah,
else.
I have that book and I need to get it out again and look at it. and do
Yes.
things.
There are quite a few books written about her life, which is a very interesting life. But this is the only one that really treats her manner of teaching. I also have some videos of her teaching, which are wonderful to watch as well.
All of the album covers was a wonderful sentimental journey for all of us
Oh,
who have some vague recollection of the 60s and the 70s.
yes.
Very vague.
All of the above.
Oh,
was
good. Oh,
very
look, that's the
fun.
book. Oh, I see it, Pat. Yeah, that's a good book too. Yes.
We got it at that big exhibit that she had at the California Museum before it went out of business.
You know, I took some of the village members there and did a little dosating job at that show. And I used that book ahead of time to remind myself of things that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we saw one of the recent documentaries about her life. Well, it was about the life of the
Immaculate
of
Heart.
the Immaculate Heart community and how that evolved and all the stages it went through. Featured her prominently.
Yeah, I have some more I can share too, if you like.
Okay, great.
Well, maybe we should have Paula Rao part 2 sometime in 22. We'll do this again.
But it should be in person so we can.
Oh, yeah, by then hopefully we will be.
And I'm not really that good of a speaker. I don't really, enjoy that too much. But if we're doing stuff together, then I think it's really fun.
Oh, yeah. Sure. It's like having a conversation.
Yeah. I guess I like talking in my classroom, but I don't know. It's
Paula, what is Carita's last name?
Kent,
Yeah.
Kent.
So, Paula,
But later she went just by the first name. Yeah, Claire.
before you introduced the artist, just before that, I made a note to ask you if those beautiful drawings on the various programs that you showed us were your drawings. And then you introduced this artist and I thought, maybe she did them, but I think you did them.
I did some of them. She did a lot of them during the 70s and 80s. But I did some too, and we worked together a lot. We call it Play Day, and we used to draw together and stuff.
So if we ever get to see them again, I want you to say, this is my drawing. I want to hear your role in all of this.
Okay, well, I just found a book in my bookcase that involves you, Claire Garfinkel. It's about the Japanese internment.
I'm interested that you have it. That's great.
I have it in my living room because I wanted to remember to ask you the next time we go on our walk. I want to ask you about it. I'll talk to you this Friday about it on our walk.
I hope you'll join us on Friday because I have things I want to talk to you about too.
Okay. Well,
maybe the rest of us will go on the walk so we can listen in.
We do. We listen into each other, and we also move around and get a chance to talk to each person. You know, we kind of have to walk in by twos, so we shift our positions so we get a chance to talk to everybody.
Everybody's welcome. More
It's like speed dating.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But not really.
But it's a way to get to know people a lot better.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I see we don't have any new members here today. And I was thinking that this is a nice way, Karen, you set up to learn more about each other.
You know, I'll tell you, this really was an offshoot of the gallery shows that we used to have in the conference room. And when COVID set in and we couldn't do that, I thought, well, maybe since B was going to do member connections alternate months, I would fill in those other months with creative connections. So I love knowing about members in the village who have some creative endeavor. And I would love to hear from you if you want to share it with the rest of the community. And it is a great way to get to know each other.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
thank
We
you
have a
so
lot
much.
of great ways to do it.
Yeah, we do. We really do. And that's what I love about the village. It
I
really
hope we get the
brings us
word
together.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, are there any more questions for Paula? Or comments?
Fascinating.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Paula.
Welcome.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much. It was wonderful. And I want that concert to happen at Occidental.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you everyone for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Fritzy, you want me to call you?
Yeah. Yes, how
Okay.
about that? Right
All
now.
right.
Just call me,
Okay.
I'm home.
Okay.
And I'll just go through it one more time.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Okay,
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.